I'm going to do a little bit of work on the elliptical again. I haven't had to do anything for 4.5 years, but last night it started to make a clicking sound. Kind of sounded like if you have a zip tie that's hitting a flywheel or something. So every time it's coming around, it's going tick, 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 tick. I'll let you hear that. And we're going to open it up and see if we can figure it out. Because we've been using it extensively for 4.5 years now. Haven't done any maintenance on it, and I really should probably lube the bearings and things like that, which I'm probably not going to do this time either. But we'll check it out, see if we can get it back to functioning shape. And first, let's see if we can hear the sound. You should be able to hear that. And it definitely sounds like it's coming from inside this part of the case. So we'll take it apart and see if we can figure it out. And as I said, I haven't taken it apart in 4.5 years, so hopefully I can remember how. So I'm going to start with this lower arm, or this rotating arm piece. Well, that looks like it's in pretty good shape. I should probably get something to set these on so I don't make a giant mess. Looks like it's in pretty good shape still. Yeah, so I should probably grease that before we put it back together. Okay, and that looks like it's just a plastic plastic bushings. So it needs to be a grease that's compatible with these plastic bushings. It doesn't feel like they're overly worn. I can kind of check that, find out what the tolerance or clearance is, see if it's too loose or anything. Oh, and where that washer is rubbing, that's got some wear on it. Okay. That part seems smooth. It's kind of loose. Got a lot more side slop than I would have expected. Maybe I'll check that out too. But it moves freely. It's not binding or gritty or anything. That's good. Okay, let's get this one off. Yeah. Well, that has plenty of side play. The bearings feel smooth. Yeah, that feels smooth. Okay. Set that aside. All right, now get this ring out of here. Just kind of pop this cap off. It kind of rotates. Yeah, so there's a couple of catches there, or slots there, and then catches there. Put it in and rotate. But it's hard to rotate it unless you can grab on to it with something. I'm going to take this arm off. And just standard thread direction on this one. Okay. This has a square shaft inside, and it uses a crank puller. So this is just old bicycle crank puller. This particular one's a Park Tool one, and it's a double-sided, so in case you have different threads, I guess. Anyway, so that threads into it. And then the interior piece goes in, and as you turn, it pushes that in, pulls this out. Okay. That just pulls it off that square drive. There you can see the square drive right here. So I don't know if you can see, it has a square fitting in there, and that grabs onto this. It's slightly tapered square, and so it gets pressed on there real tight. See if we can figure out what is doing the clicking. And I can take the whole side off if I need to, now that I've got this part off. I may need to, just so I can get in there and see everything else. Well, in fact, I'll try to do that. There's only a few screws that hold it together. And ours, we just had the front side taped together because these little pins didn't hold well, and we got it used. There's the little magnetic sensor that we had worked on a couple years ago, or 4.5 years ago, and so it still seems to be fine. So I was assuming it was something hitting this flywheel. So let's see if we can make the flywheel go. And it could be the belt itself could be worn or have a worn spot in, I don't know. So let's see if we can make it go with it half dismantled. Oh, I can put this on enough to turn it. Okay, what is it? Let's look around, see if we can find it, because I didn't see anything obvious. Well, so far, I don't see anything to make it go click. So, which way is forward? This way. Oops. Definitely sounded like it was up front. Yeah, this is like a heavy cast flywheel. So it keeps some momentum. And there's the magnet coming close to the sensor. So the sensor hasn't moved, that's good. All the zip ties seem to be in place still. Well, shucks. I don't see it. Well, let's try it again. I suppose it could be the bearings. Boy, I was hoping to not take it apart that far. Okay, took the housing off of that because this piece had broken free. I'm going to go ahead and glue that back into place. But I still don't see where I'm getting the sound from. Well, I'm gonna have to take it apart further. So I'll take the other side off also. Let's see if we can get this side apart also. Sheesh. See if we can get this one off there. Yeah, I still can't get it off there. There it goes. Once you can lift it a little, you can give it a little bit of a turn. It comes right undone. This one, the threads are a little bit tight, so I can't thread it on as far by hand, and I want it threaded pretty well so that there's no chance on damaging the threads. And get this side piece off. There, fine. Let's rotate it again. See if we can figure it out. I don't see anything out of line. I don't see anything hitting anything. So that might mean it's a bearing. We've got bearings up here and bearing there. So we've got bearings on the flywheel and then bearings on the idler there, the tensioner. Guess I'll have to take it apart a bit, see if we can figure it out. I don't see it touching anything. I don't see any marks like it's been touching anything. Nothing feels loose, cracked, shifted or anything. It's not super great lighting, it seems like. Okay, that's the pivot for this tensioner. So we should be able to loosen this and then loosen this up and then maybe feel to see if this bearing or that bearing is clicking. So I don't see any other things. Stuff from the belt, wear over time, but the belt, there doesn't appear to be any cracks in it. Appears good. The tension seems good. I don't want to not put my fingers in the rotating bits. Oops. Let's loosen this up. And if I leave the other nut on the other side, the same place, that should give me the same tension. You can just put it back to that original spot. Now, let's see what we have here. See if we can figure it out now. Take this off of there. There we go. Okay, that seems to spin real nice. So right now I'm guessing that it's this tensioner piece, because that is not spinning freely. Let's take it off of there, see what we can check. Let's see, is that a 10 millimeter? Yes, we can get a socket 10 millimeter from the other side. Let's take that off and check it. So you can see that piece in there, so I'm going to take that off and see if that's our problem. Oh yeah, it's got a bit of rotation first. There it goes. And the screw did have some Loctite on it, or some thread locker. Let's check that. Well, it's certainly not spinning real free. I don't know if that's the problem though. I don't feel any clicks or anything. Ah, darn it. Yeah, I don't see any cracks in it. Nothing that should click. I don't know if I have any of these bearings. So, the bearings on these do look like they've been hot and corroded a bit. And I sprayed some lube into them and spun them, and it really, I can kind of feel a grittiness now to it. So I'm guessing this is the problem. Now the question is what to do. Let's see if I have any of these bearings. If I do, I could replace them. if I can get these out of there. Oh, and this edge is worn. So maybe the edge of the belt is catching on that, and that could make the sound. So whether or not this is the cause of the noise, these bearings are bad. I squirted some lube between the two sets of bearings inside, and just tons of junk is coming out of there. So I'm going to look to see if I have any more of these bearings, and more importantly, can I get these out? Now, I don't know if I can. It looks like it's press fitted from both sides. I don't know if I can get them out. Yeah, I may have to order this component. The bearings I had were the little 608, so I have nothing to replace this. So I'll lube it up, I'll put it back, and we'll take pictures of it, and we'll see if we can order a new one. I mean, obviously you can order the bearing, so we'll see about this whole component. So back to this piece. As I said, I don't even know for sure that this is the problem piece as far as the sound, but nothing else is touching, and I don't know how else to check it, because I can rotate those pieces. I'm not hearing any clicking. I can check it again without this piece in place and see if that helps. What I did was I cleaned it. There's a space between the two bearings. I used a spray cleaner, kind of like WD-40, but it's a little different, and sprayed it in there, cleaned it out as best I could, and then used some high-speed grease, bearing grease, and a toothpick, a wide flat one, and just pushed it into that groove by putting a blob there and just going over and over and over, pushing it into the groove all the way around. We'll clean that up and we'll reinstall it and check it. Because even if that's not the problem, that should get it so we can use it for a while longer. Well, or I should say, if that is the problem. If that's not the problem, then I'll have to try to figure out what that click is from. It's much smoother than it was. I can feel that it's a bit rough, and I can live with that. So let's check it out. And this part I'd have to take the belt off to check it, and I guess that's worth doing. Let's just go ahead and take that belt off. Whoa. Okay, take that other crank off. And then we can spin this. Not hearing anything. Seems to stop faster than I would expect, but that could be the fact that there's a pretty hefty magnet right there, and it's passing both of the pieces of framework, well, and this whole area here. It seems okay. Let's put it back together and find out. Worst case is it won't work, or it didn't fix it. Okay. Now let's go back to the other side and get that bearing back in there. Let's get that piece out, and we'll put this back into place. I would think it should spin instead of just rotate easily. Well, we're going to put it back together though, because I don't have a spare part for it. I can order something later. Now I need to get the belt in the correct position. On the other side of that tensioner. Okay, and then make sure that it's in the grooves properly. Okay, it all looks like it's lined up well. You can see the tensioner here, and then goes over the flywheel, and then back through the power part of it. Well, let's get this nut back into position. All right. Okay, I did not adjust the tension, I just put it right back to where it was. Okay, looks good. Everything looks like it lines up. So you can see the tensioner here, and then the splined piece there where it turns it. Where it turns the flywheel, the weight. So everything looks like it's in alignment. I'll go ahead and put it back together, recognizing that we probably need to order one of those, at least in the near future. Okay, that one tab piece that had been broken off, the one screw piece, I glued it back on with some ABS glue, so we won't put the screw in that until later. Oh, there it is. So is it the bearings of this? Of the flywheel? It might be the bearings on this then. I can feel it. I can definitely feel it there. Yeah, you can feel the click. Okay, so let's tear that back apart. But we won't finish it until tomorrow, that's for sure. Well, should have checked that bearing to begin with, but it seemed fine. I don't know what else it could be. Okay, now let's get the belt loose. Okay, so nothing else is going to go exactly one revolution for every one of these. And it was clicking when it was in this area. Let's go ahead and take it apart. Well, it's pretty simple. Just a couple of nuts and it'll come out. Of course, it's not the same size as that. Of course not. Brighten that up a bit. Okay, got both sides loose. This should just come straight off. There we go. Now let's see if we can. Well, it is tight. Oh, I can feel some real roughness right there. Okay, so maybe that's it. Well, let's see if we can tear that apart. So it has a double thin nut on there, so a jam nut on each side. I'll have to get this approximately the same spot. And it looked like there was some, might have been some thread seal on there, or a thread lock. I don't know, either that or just some junk in there. And that bearing spins nicely. Okay. That really seems fine. Okay, let's check this one. Wow, they sure have a little bearing on this one side. It doesn't feel bad. I'll spray that a little bit. See if that's any better. I don't see anything wrong with that. Bearing on that, 6300 RS it looks like. Let's see if I can see that on there in case I need that later. There's the bearing numbers. Once again, it's a bearing that I don't have because I have almost no bearings, to be fair. So let's make sure we get this. I can feel some crunchiness of the bearings with this. It feels like it might be this bigger one. Well, I can't change it right now, so I'll take care of it later. Yep, I can definitely feel a bit of a clunky sound in there, a gritty, grainy sound, or feel. But for now, we've got the information, so let's put it back together. So let's put it back together again. Okay, we're together again. Okay, you know the drill. Let's put the sides back on. I think I'll crank it up once first. Okay, it sounds good and looks good. Let's see if we can put it back together in a reasonable amount of time. I think I'll come back tomorrow on this. It's getting really late and I want to glue some pieces. I thought I should mention what this thing is. So this is a Schwinn elliptical. It says Journey 4.5. I have no idea what that really means. We got this like third-hand used. We got it from our in-laws who got it from somebody else, and it was broken at the time that our in-laws got it. They gave it to us, and broken, meaning that it wouldn't show the speed. And I did a video on that about 4.5 years ago, and it was just this sensor it had slipped back. The little piece that holds it doesn't hold it well, and so we put it back into place and glued it. And we haven't had a bit of problem since then. So these bearings are the first time that we've had a problem with it. Now again, we got it used and it was already a little bit broken. One of the things that it had was the screws that come from the other side that go into these pieces. Well, these pieces were still attached to the screw, but this piece wasn't attached to this anymore. So I took those off and used JB Weld to glue these back to this plastic piece. There was 3 of them. This one, and this one were all broken off. So only 3 or 4 of the screws, I think 3 screws that held this on were still functioning. So these bottom 2, and I think 1 up at the top somewhere. Anyway, so we've glued those. We'll see how those work and see if that holds it together properly. And then I won't need the tape. But now, let's get this thing back together. We'll worry about ordering bearings later. And I don't know about these other bearings and bushings. See if we can clean those up. See if they need to be replaced also. The side plates first, because those don't need to be there. So it's these 2 side plates. So we'll get this one on, and this piece gets kind of pushed inside, so I don't know when that goes into position, because that piece fits into this area. So I think I can push this in there afterwards. There we go. Okay, so it just ends up with the screw through the plastic piece and into the metal here. And same with the bottom, it just goes into the frame here and then back there. Doing the same thing on the other side. So that side is back on. See if we can get this side on and make sure that the screw holes line up. And if this all works out, I won't need the extra tape pieces. Oh, I need to get this back piece into position. I have no idea what's supposed to hold this into place. Okay, no. There, okay, there's a little space on these tabs. So there's, on these 2 areas here, there's a little groove in between this edge of the plastic and these, and that flange fits in there. Okay. And then maybe I'll kind of tape that into place to hold it until the other side's in, to keep those 2 pieces together. Now, let's see if we can get this in there. Okay, that one's in. So let me try to get that bottom screw. I don't know if I need to do anything up there to adjust for it, but I'll try to get this one in first so that everything stays held together. Okay, now see if we can get all the other tabs to line up. Okay, what am I missing here? Oh, there's the 2 little pin pieces that need to line up in the front. And one comes from this side and one comes from that side, and there's little holes for them to line up in. So maybe I can just, I'll reach in here and kind of push it up into position. There we go. So the one side has a socket area, and the other side has a pin, and then it switches on the other side. So it's just, and they're pretty long, so you can reach in there with a tool and just line up that pin to the socket on one side, and same with the other side. And that looks like that lines them up. Okay. Oh, do I have it lined up at the bottom? No, not quite. Almost. There we go. I don't think it's ever been together as well since I've owned it, or since we've had it. So I'll get the two side screws in first. So there's one up here. And the screws that were in here, I ground the tips off to make them slightly shorter. I'm hoping that way they won't break the piece that I glued together, because they'll be a little bit shorter. So, and we'll put them in there carefully without too much force. If I need, I can add a washer. Okay, that feels fine. It didn't feel like it was pulling it too much. And one more back here. Sweet. That's literally the first time those have been put together properly since we've had it, and it's been like 4.5 years. Now this piece just sets down over it and kind of clips into place. There was no screws or anything holding it, and so that's it. And one more piece. Okay, it has this plastic rubbery piece that just goes around there and goes into that hole, apparently the other direction. All right, there. All right. Well, now the now we'll put the arm parts back on. And both sides of this are essentially the same, except for, of course, one arm of this is facing down and the other side's facing up. They need to be 180 off from each other. Now this is the one that had this broken piece. I went and I glued this piece back together with ABS glue, but I forgot to check to see. I was pretty sure this was ABS plastic for this little part. This main piece was not. It's some kind of other plastic, maybe a fiber-filled plastic or something. And that has that tapered square piece. And this nut. And tightening this will pull that back onto that square drive piece. Go ahead and put this on right now. And I don't know how you're supposed to turn that. There's nothing to grip with. So, yeah, no idea. There, kind of grabbed the corner of it and just twisted it because there's no real way to do that. And we'll get the other side. And I'm not putting any Loctite on it right now because I assume I'm going to need to take it apart in a short period of time to change out the bearings. These are the rails that these wheel pieces ride on back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and clean these with a bit of acetone. These seem like they're fine, so I'm going to do nothing with these right now. And we'll check the other bearing areas. We should be able to wipe off any of the rubbery stuff off of here that's coming off of these wheels. That's interesting. I don't know if that's a function of how we walk or the machine, but this has one small stripe of bare metal here, and maybe just a little over a 1/4 inch here, and maybe a 1/2 inch here at the widest spot. But on this side, it's more like 1 inch here and 1.25 inches here. It's significantly different on the two sides. There's quite a lot of material built up at the two ends. Yeah, so this is just on this inside edge, and this is kind of rolling across the top. So I don't know if that's an adjustment thing or something about the way we walk. Maybe we walk on the left-hand side all the time. I know I walk on the two sides differently, because I do. I'm going to pop one of these off and see if they seem symmetrical, and see if I want to switch them around. Well, that's kind of greasy looking inside. Well, let's check those bearings. Oh boy, I should probably check what these bearings are also, because boy, I can feel flat spots in the bearings as it rolls around. That one seems much better, but this one is crunchy. Well, let's see if we can figure out what these bearings are. I might have to just measure them, because oh, wait a minute, is there the markings? Okay, there's one on each side. That would probably be difficult to get out. Okay, so that's what that bearing is. So for temporarily again, I'll lube it up, clean it, see if we can get some use out of it. It's very, I mean, I can feel that it's crunchy. The one on the other side feels smooth. This one does not. It looks symmetrical. I'm going to flip it around, put this on the inside and this on the outside, see if that makes any difference. I can see where it looks like the bearing itself is spinning around the shaft. That shouldn't be happening. Well, it's considerably better than it was. We'll take it. I'll do the same to this other side, and I don't think I'm going to worry about the pivot bearing, because it doesn't move very much and feels very smooth still. So of course, we've had this for 4.5 years, as I mentioned. We've never done any service on it, so I don't know if these are, I assume nothing's been done to it since it was originally purchased. Okay, these bearings aren't gritty, so that's better than that one was, but they still look terrible. And now I don't know which way it was in, so I don't know how to know if I've reversed it. Yeah, most of these kind of bearings are pretty cheap, so I'm really not worried about if I mess them up and destroy them. I don't want to put money into this thing. So I just want to keep it moving. So again, I'm sure this isn't the proper way to do some of the service, and I'm not worried about that. And I will have to pay attention to the tightness of these because I'm not adding any thread locker right now. And so that could come into play, so I'll have to pay attention to them. Okay, that's much better than it was. And these just set on top of this by way of gravity, so they're not attached at all. And that is not great. So let's figure out what to do to clean that. I can take this apart easy enough. I'm going to go ahead and take this cover off so I can get to that bearing better. Make sure that I can clean it a little bit and lube it up. And the parts list and manual, I'm sure, shows the bearing sizes. Okay, just pull that apart. All right, a screw on the other side still. Yep, right there. Okay, oh, just gonna get a little bit into these bearings. And the other side. So we'll start with the bottom part. I'll put that little spring piece in. All right, so as Lego Batman would say, first try. So I'll get some silicone spray and spray that bushing and pin before I put them back in there. A touch of food grade silicone spray, which we like to think of it as potato cannon fuel. We used to use this all the time on tabletops where we had to slide boxes. A fair amount of scarring on it. Put a little spray of this on there. I thought I had, couldn't remember for sure. Yep. So the pin gets pushed through there. Same thing on the other side. It's a lot more grease and oils on this than I would have expected, because it looked like they were sealed bearings. Maybe these top ones weren't. A lot of gunk. It wasn't my fault. I didn't lube it ever, even if I should have. This piece into view. Make sure that these bushings are clean. I suppose this is kind of like any machine. Once you've torn it apart 100 times, it's pretty simple and easy. But this is my first time taking it this far apart. Well, first and second altogether, because, you know, I put it together wrong, or the bearings were bad, have to take it apart again. And I know putting thin lube in there might destroy the bearings, but I'm not worried about it because I really need to consider replacing all of them. And I've had a lot of hours on this thing. I mean, just since we had it, 4.5 years, we've put many hundreds of hours on it. Okay, last piece, I think. All right, so to the best of my knowledge, I've got it all back together. So I'm going to give these rails just a small spray of silicone. That seems, we've done that before, and it seems to help keep the rubbery stuff from sticking as much. Well, it feels as smooth and as quiet as it ever did before. Maybe better, but certainly no worse. And the click is gone. So at least temporarily, we can be back in use with it. Just kind of pop this cap off. It kind of rotates. Yeah, so there's a couple of catches there, or slots there, and then catches there. Put it in and rotate. But it's hard to rotate it unless you can grab on to it with something.